Now! This ends now. No time to waste. Let's go!
Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Wayward Dreams. Are you ready to end this sucker? 'Cause I am. Okay, so as you'll notice from the last time to this time, there have been some pretty drastic changes, and one of the biggest ones that you've probably noticed is this sword. And that's because I ended up I showed an earlier version of this to just a couple of people that I trust, and the biggest conclusion, besides it needs work, is that the sword looked ridiculous, and I had to concur. That really wasn't the fault of the poser reference that my husband made for me. That was the fault of the fact that I hadn't pinned down what perspective I wanted the sword in, number one, and number two, poser has a very limited selection on that kind of a thing. So I ended up going through and redrawing this sword on a completely separate document until I liked something new, and I had to go and look at video game screen caps trying to figure out how they got that really epic looking thing going on. I'm still not sure that it's completely successful, but it does look a butt ton better than it did before. Here, when you're starting to end things out, I could have always spent probably another 20 hours on this and still not been completely satisfied, but at some point you gotta call something done. When you're starting to do the finishing stages, your light makes the biggest difference of just about anything. By this time you probably should have most of your form as set as it's gonna be, besides minor changes, and that's just kind of a given. But that's why you're going to notice, like, I've got several more layers of flames that I'm going through right now, and flame is pretty much its own living character. It just is. Making it too tame looking or even too predictable just doesn't do it any favors at all. So that's why I've ended up with several layers. I've got I think I've got a hard light layer of it. I've got an overlay layer so that I get an extra, like, glow around certain things. I've got a color dodge layer, a linear dodge layer. Oh my god, I probably way overdid all of the layers, but sometimes you just have to do what makes sense, and that process isn't clean cut. I wish I could tell you it is, but it's really not. It's playing with things until they look right in your picture, and sometimes getting the right effect, especially when you're looking at, like, halo and bounce lighting. You just have to try different layer effects and see what comes out, because nothing's going to be the same set of colors and nothing's going to be the same lighting situation. In this case, probably one of the most useful things that I could have done was look at, like, action movies, believe it or not, because you know that cool scene that everybody has where, like, the hero is walking in front of a big explosion and he's not looking backwards and stuff? That's pretty much what Oren is doing here, and that's the lighting effect that you want. His body is mostly silhouetted, so I've got a multiply layer over his outfit so that you can see the details in it. I don't want them gone, especially because he's closest in frame, but I'm paying a lot more attention to that inferno around him and trying to make the edges look like they almost kind of blend in and disappear with the flames behind him. So Ifrit is fairly close. He's far enough back to where he's small in the frame, but you kind of get the idea that he's this massive thing because he's up against the city. I think that's one of the biggest things that's annoyed me about some of the games was that, you know, they summon this thing that's supposed to be this end-all be-all, and it shows up and it's like slightly bigger than a horse or something. I just don't get that. Like, Ifrit should be an elephant. Not really. He should be the size of an elephant. So to get that a little bit better, about here I start digging with his perspective a little bit because it just wasn't coming across quite well enough. So I had to have his lower half be like closer and bigger and his top half a little bit smaller so that you kind of get the feeling that his head is further away than it maybe looks. Okay, so right about here, you'll see I'm probably just going in and like cleaning up quite a lot because that makes a giant difference if you can zoom in and preserve the quality even when it's at its full pixel size. So every now and again, you'll want to zoom in to 100% just to see what's going on. Because when you zoom back out again, you're going to find out that it's quite a lot cleaner and it reads a lot easier, unless your style is really impressionistic, in which case this isn't the channel for you because I don't talk about that. I try and do this high fantasy and cyberpunk stuff where you actually want some detail, and my advice is definitely not for your kind of work. So little details like this kind of stuff, I wasn't really sure what else to do with him. He didn't look quite complicated enough, or I don't know, there's just something missing about Ifrit, so I didn't give him nipple piercings. Those are like clavicle piercings with the chains and the stuff. I'm going to say that mastering metals is hard enough as it is. Now add flame to it. It adds a really weird element of challenge to the whole thing because metal is stupid reflective, and especially like his gold bracers and the gold chains that are on him, I kind of wanted that high sheen sort of a look. So you should catch some of the movement of fire in the bracers and in your metals. The sword is also one of those things where that was a really hard balance to achieve, and I still don't think I'm quite there on it. It just ended up being that like that's the compromise that I could make that looked okay at the time. At that point, you're really just going to want to try and define the form with really dark colors in certain areas and your really bright reflective colors in others. You act like it's molten almost. It's really, really weird. And these patterns, I didn't make them. I used a Celtic brush for expediency's sake, so no, I'm not going to claim that I actually made those really cool Celtic knots. I did not, but I ended up playing with some sort of like an emboss layer on it so that it looks like it's popping out of the metal, and then, you know, you warp it to fit the shape. Also, you don't want it to be like right on top because that looks fake, so you want to reduce your opacity or maybe put it on a different layer setting so that it looks like it's actually part of the metal that you're already working with. And the last thing I want to talk to you about is something that I've just started really trying to implement because I've seen what kind of a difference it makes. It's amazing. Is syncing your palette. So I really am in love with color, like way too much, as you can tell. And what ends up helping quite a lot is over most of your layers, like maybe unless your foreground you want to be completely separate, you're going to want to probably put a brand new layer, paint bucket it with one color. In this case, I picked like a weird green, but you set that on an overlay mode or something like that, and it ties all of the colors in together, and it makes sure that your composition works. Pick a color and paint bucket it over most of your composition, if not all, and see how it ties things together, because I've realized it makes such a huge difference in my own outcome. Alright, and it looks like we're ended on this one. If you have an idea for a tutorial that you want that's more singular, then let me know in the comments. Let me know if you like this and if you've got any good ideas for what you want to see me do this year. I would really love to hear about it. We'll see you next time.
Is this how it ends then? So be it.